This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net. It is Tuesday, the last Tuesday in April, and it's time for What in the World?
Hi, Karen. Yeah, it's me, Paul Sebern with What in the World. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I missed you both last week.
Yes. We had a hiatus last week.
Good.
But we're here. I didn't realize this was the last Tuesday in April. Boy, time flies.
Yeah, it surely does.
I'm going to mention how nice the weather is in Cleveland, just as an intro to our good buddy John DiNallo, our sports commentator and color commentator, it looks much nicer where you are, John.
Well, it is very nice here. I'm in Florida. I don't mean to rub it in, but I'm in Florida, and the weather's been really good. Yeah.
It's snowing. It snowed here last week, John. Were you here for that?
No, I was gone for that, and my sister-in-law was sending us all these pictures of all the snow, and I know it just kind of went away the next day, right? Because
thank God.
Yeah. For those tuning in for the first time, we live in the southern part of Cleveland, Ohio. So just to give you a geographic feel for where we're coming from, and yes, it did. Second last week of April, it snowed. That's just not right. There's something we did wrong that we have to pay for now. And that's how we paid for it.
Yeah, that's how we paid for it.
That's it. So anyways, you're here with What in the World? The funny news show. Our motto is real news, sometimes strange, always funny. Everything that we talk about is real. Comes from around the world, sometimes around the galaxy, around the universe. I've got a couple of stories from space this week, so we always like to talk about that. We like to talk about world records. We've got some weird sports. And the purpose of us being here once a week is to have some fun. Get away from the bad news, the business news, the political news, all that other garbage that you're listening to. Clear your head, get some fun, weird. I say fun, but it's usually weird before it's fun.
Absolutely.
But that's what we're here for. That's why it's called What in the World, because we want you to say, what in the world is he talking about? And then you have a good laugh and we move on to something else. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to get right to it with some strange stories this week, as always. I mentioned space. A little story about a piano man in space. A little musical twist there. A very strange monster in Poland. So for our ethnic fans, and then I don't know if we had a regular Polish viewer for quite a while. I don't know if he's still in.
He hasn't come back for a while. We miss him.
Oh no! What did I say? Good. I hope I didn't offend him. We've got something for you, John. We got a couple of stories from Florida. One about Disney and a very creepy ride. That's even creepier than we first thought. On the weird side, Karen, we have a lady who's going to marry a chandelier. Yes. We've got Rock'em Sock'em Robots is being made into a movie. We're going to talk about that. I got a Bigfoot story. Queen Elizabeth and the Loch Ness Monster with the late Prince Philip making an appearance. Bigfoot in Dallas. Yeah. Oh,
wow.
Not on the show, but wouldn't that be something? Yeah, I would have called you and let you know so we could promote it. And then more world records, trivia. We got a bunch of trivia, so John, be ready over there.
I will.
World records, and then of course, before we leave, we play everybody's favorite weird news game, Bluff the Co-host. So, without further ado, let's get right to it. Where did I say we were going first? Oh, we're going to go to Poland first. So, as I mentioned before, the lovely Donna is Polish, so I try not to be offensive. And we're here in Cleveland, which is like little Poland as far as ethnicity is concerned. So this comes from Krakow, very pretty city. I've been there. In Krakow, animal welfare officers were called out to a house by numerous people who were terrified, absolutely terrified by a mysterious animal in a tree that they could not identify. So they had to bring the fire department out, EMS, police. They all come rushing in. They put a ladder up next to the tree. They climb up, and let me show a picture before I tell you what it is and see if you can figure it out. Here's let's see. I got to get back into my get into habit again of showing pictures here. There we go. So that's the creature that is up in a tree in Krakow, Poland. Does that look like something that you would be afraid of, John?
I can't really make it out, so I don't know.
That's part of the problem. That's exactly what they said. That's why they called the police. Karen, how about you?
It looks like a bag or something hanging there.
Bag, yeah. Well, you're close. You got half the word right.
Oh,
it's a croissant. I was going to say baguette, but it's somehow a croissant got stuck in a tree, and a pretty big croissant.
yeah.
And it was high enough that no one could figure out what it was, so they called EMS. And and I don't know if they ate it, but if this happened in Cleveland, in a Polish neighborhood in Cleveland, and it was a punchki, there would have been tons of the TV stations would have been out there. For those who don't know what a punchki is a big fat filled jelly donut that's very popular with in the Polish neighborhoods and Polish families, and also during Lent. No, before Lent. It's to celebrate, to get your last sugar high before Lent. So this is all being made into a new TV series called Wild Bakery. So
but, as I'm looking at this,
yeah.
couldn't the people on their balcony tell what it was?
You would think so, Karen. And I don't want to be insulting, but this is Poland.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that answer.
It's a joke. It's a joke. You would think so. It might be the perspective here that like your mirror, things in the mirror are bigger than they look.
Sure.
That could be what this is. I have no idea. But the one person that they interviewed for the article that I read said she thought it looked like an iguana. John, you're down in Florida. Have you seen any iguanas while you're down there?
No iguanas, but we did have a small snake come into our lanai that got caught by one of our sticky traps. And there's a lot of small geckos here.
Gecko.
A lot of geckos. Yes.
Well, so iguanas are huge.
Yeah. No, haven't seen any.
But you know what an iguana looks like. This doesn't look like an iguana.
No.
They must not have iguanas in Poland.
It's really hard to define. I mean, I understand it's a croissant, but when you look at it more closely, it's like it's hard to distinguish exactly what it is. Really.
Well, you're like the Poles, John. You don't recognize any animal you can't make a sausage out of. That's So I was planning, I was looking forward to doing this joke, and then I thought, I ought to look and see if there is such a thing as iguana sausage. And guess what?
There is.
Oh no, there's a real croissant. Do a little comparison here. That sounds to you now?
No.
The one on the plate looks very appetizing.
Yes.
You hungry, John? Yeah, I know. You should have had lunch by now. Here we go. Iguana sausage. That's ground iguana meat on the left.
Ooh.
And actual iguana sausages that are available on the internet. Something like they're not cheap. I think the meat is like $35 a pound. So that's elitist meat. That's not the kind of stuff that you're going to make iguana meatloaf out of. But yeah, there's so many iguanas in Florida that they're an invasive species, and they can't get rid of them. And in the wintertime, we've done a story about this. They kind of get chilled to the point where they freeze up and fall out of the trees. And the wildlife officials who are trying to get rid of these iguanas tell people to run out and grab them before they can run away and make things out of them. And to entice them, they're calling iguanas the chicken of the trees.
Oh, geez.
Wow. Some marketing person spent a long time thinking about that. Chicken of the trees.
Instead of chicken of the sea, obviously. A little play on words.
Little play on words, John. That's exactly right. Okay, here's another one for you while you're down there. I know you're basically relaxing, and I don't think Disney World is open, if I'm not mistaken. Although it might be
limited basis. Limited basis.
Okay. Well, this is from my More Reasons to Be Creeped Out by a Ride file. Those annoying singing dolls in the It's a Small World ride. You're familiar with that one?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, both at Disneyland and Disney World. It turns out there's a secret thing about these dolls. Their hair actually grows. To the point where so much so that they have to cut it every year. There's a picture of the dolls, a picture of the it's one of those water rides you ride through, and they sing that song. I'm not going to sing it. I don't want people to complain that we planted that song in their head for the rest of the day. But once a year, someone has to come in and cut the hair on all of these dolls. Now, can you imagine? I mean, it's nice that they bring someone in rather than sending the dolls to a barbershop. Can you imagine sitting in a barbershop or a salon and they're sitting there waiting to get their hair cut and they're singing that annoying song over and over and over again. And there's the stylist with scissors thinking, I
have a hard time understanding. How can their hair grow?
I was waiting for someone to ask that question.
God.
It defies science, if you ask me.
Their hair is made of yarn, and you can see this water here. It's very humid in that ride. So the yarn absorbs the water, and it gets weighed down, and it's a combination of absorbing the water and stretching because of the weight. And so they're that little girl in the front, by the end of the year, she can't see. Her bangs are well over her eyes and into her nose. Same with the little kid he's to the point where he doesn't even know what country he's from. He looks down, where am I from?
Yeah.
So anyways, I had to look up this ride because I have been on it in Disneyland in Los Angeles. This was made obviously by Walt Disney Studios. And it was originally called Children of the World. And they made it in 1964 for the 1964 World's Fair in New York City. And it was part of the UNICEF Pavilion. So they tortured all those people there in New York and made them ride through and listen. They didn't have the song at that time, so it wasn't so bad. Disassembled it when the fair was over, moved it to Disneyland back in 1966. The origin of the song, Walt Disney's taken a walkthrough with a couple of songwriters because he wants music for it, and a couple of brothers, the Sherman brothers. And he says, I need a song that can be translated into many languages and be played as a round, like Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Yep. Another annoying song, by the way. So these two guys came up with it. And the thing, it's amazing. There's lyrics to this song other than, and I'm not going to say the words, but other than the title, there are actually lyrics to this song. So it was written and recorded in 1966. So it's been around for, let's see, that's over 50 years. It is the most recorded, most performed, and most translated piece of music in the world. It has been played nearly 50 million times worldwide, not just in the Disney facilities, but all over the place. Beating out by a great margin, You've Lost That Love and Feeling by the John?
Everly Brothers.
Is that the Everly Brothers or the Righteous Brothers? You've Lost That Loving Feeling. I think that's by the Righteous Brothers.
I think you're right. Righteous Brothers.
So, yeah. And Yesterday, obviously. Karen, I'll give you that one.
The Beatles.
The Beatles, yes. Only 7 or 8 million times between those two. So I'm going to, believe it or not, I'm not going to sing it. I'll give you the lyrics just so you know. It's a world of laughter, a world of tears. It's a world of hopes and a world of fears. There's so much that we share that it's time we're aware. It's a you know what after all. And not only that, and I'm not going to torture you anymore. There's another verse.
Seriously.
Yeah, seriously. So I don't know if anybody even listens to, it's just kind of like you hear the tune before you hear the words, and you immediately tune it out or put your fingers in your ears or something. But so anyways, so John, while you're down there, you can always run over to Orlando. And so speaking of annoying earworms, I've got another one for you. You Light Up My Life. John, I'll throw that one to you first. Remember who recorded, who became famous for You Light Up My Life?
Yes, I want to say it's Debbie Boone.
Debbie Boone, very good. Daughter of
Pat
Boone.
Good old Pat Boone, that's right. Originally, I think we talked about this before. As I was writing this, Karen, this sounded familiar. It was originally recorded by a lady by the name of Casey Sissick for the movie of the same name, You Light Up My Life, 1977 movie. She recorded it, and the actress who played the lead lip-synced it, and her name was Didi Khan. And the reason why I mention those two names is because I've never heard of either one of those. Turns out Didi Khan, she only did two big things. She did You Light Up My Life, and then she was in Grease, and Grease 2, as Frenchie, who was the girlfriend of Sandy, the star, I forget who played her, and it was John Travolta and
Olivia
Newton-John. There, thank you. So yeah, she was Sandy's friend. Sissick is a Ukrainian singer, and she never had another hit, but she became famous for doing advertising jingles. And her most famous advertising jingle probably is equally as famous as You Light Up My Life, and that is, have you driven a Ford lately? She recorded that. She did music, McDonald's, You Deserve a Break Today, that's her. She is so famous in Ukraine, they have an annual music festival dedicated to her and a street named for her.
Wow.
Yeah, just for singing jingles and You Light Up My Life. So, of course, yeah, the best known version was Debbie Boone. This is, it's an earworm. It's an annoying song. It held the #1 position on the Billboard Hot 100 for 10 consecutive weeks. It topped Record World's Magazine Top 100 Singles chart for a record at the time, 13 weeks. And it won Debbie Boone a Grammy Award for Best New Artist. I can't explain it other than 1977. That's all I can say. So anyway, why am I talking about You Light Up My Life? Because I've got this story that I mentioned before, Karen, about the lady who's going to marry a chandelier. I know you find that hard. You don't find that hard to believe. We've talked about people who marry. I think that we talked about a lady who was going to marry the Eiffel Tower once, and a number of stories about women who wanted to marry ghosts.
Right.
So now you've got this lady. She lives in England. She's in her 30s, okay, and she's marrying. And I'm going to show you who she's marrying in a second here. There she is. Her name is Liberty, and she's marrying a 93-year-old chandelier who she has named Lumiere. Nice French name.
Oh my
Lumiere.
gosh.
Yeah. So this is a big age difference here. I call this a May-December closeout sale at the secondhand shop relationship. So yeah, she says she has this affliction called objectophilia, which means she's turned on by objects rather than guys. Although some guys I know are objects, but that's another topic. So she's dead serious. She broke up with. She had two previous romances. Here it comes. One with a drum set, and another one with the Statue of Liberty. so I can see the drum set. They're getting intimate, and she's disappointed in the drum set, and she says, more cowbell, and that doesn't work. So, and I don't have anything on the Statue of Liberty. I think that's against the law, and to say bad.
Now, I'm having a problem with this affliction
about time
that she's having. I mean, like, why doesn't somebody get her some mental health?
Well, trust me. In fact, why not show her the movie Romancing the Stone? Or not Romancing the Stone. The War of the Roses. Do you remember that movie, The War of the Roses, starring Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner?
Yeah.
Yes.
As a married couple, their last name was the Roses, and Danny DeVito was their divorce attorney. And the entire movie was him telling one of his new clients about the worst divorce he ever had to deal with. And that movie ends with a chandelier. In this case, it was Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas hanging from the chandelier in their beautiful foyer with a spiral staircase going around it. And for anybody who's not seen the movie, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you can probably figure out what's going to happen next. So relationships with chandeliers aren't a good idea. By the way, this movie was made, I think, in 1989. The mid 1980s were made for Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. Do you remember some of the other movies they did? I mentioned one; it slipped out. Romancing the Stone, which was also with Danny DeVito, kind of an Indiana Jones kind of movie, although much funnier, and the sequel, Jewel of the Nile. So, anyways, that's don't mess with chandeliers. I would send that information to her. Okay, so John, this is a story for the two of us. This is a hot new product for people who've been sitting on their couches for a while, during the pandemic. It's a silicone bodysuit with realistic looking muscles, bulging veins, and a perfect six-pack. And some of them come with fake body hair. I want to show you a picture of it, John, so you can imagine us. And Karen, you can imagine us in those.
Oh my God.
Can you? This is from China. Obviously, the writing on the top is Chinese, and absolutely, phenomenal body that the guy who put it on has. Although, if you look at him, he's got a pretty slim waist to begin with. I'm not sure that he actually needs this slip.
Well, if he wants to look more muscular, maybe
that's it. Yeah. I was. I let my imagination run wild here, and I was going to order one and put it on backwards, and then I was going to go to CVS, and I was going to go to pharmacists and tell them that this was a side effect from my second COVID shot.
That's a good idea.
They'd sue me for the therapy that they had to go through. But isn't that wild, John? There's a word for guys like us who wear a suit like that. Kielbasi.
Yeah. It has to be so uncomfortable.
Oh, I would think so, Karen. It's right. It's extremely tight. We all grew up in the area where the ladies in the era when the ladies wore girdles.
Right.
I can't imagine people. A Spanx is not the same as a girdle, if I remember correctly. There's more elastic and more give and less intense squeezing.
Paul? What is that suit made out of? What is the material?
Silicon, John.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I suppose you can probably get a couple of them. One to match your new tan, and one for when you're pale again when you come back up to Cleveland.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So anyway, speaking of the area that we all grew up in, Mattel is coming out with a plan. Their movie division coming out with a plan to develop a Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie starring Vin Diesel. Now, for those who don't remember Rock'em Sock'em Robots, I have a picture of if you want to tune in on YouTube, and you can see it was a very simple game. You basically had two plastic robots in a little plastic ring, and each player had what are probably the very first joysticks in history, at least in the gaming world. And each one had a button, and you press the button, and the fist would come out. And eventually, one of the fists hit the other one in the jaw, and their head popped up, and you were declared the winner. That's being made into a movie.
No.
No, I just read you the instruction manual. That's it. That's the script right there. I don't know. And they got Vin Diesel because obviously the dialogue is too complex even for Sylvester Stallone. What I can't imagine what the movie might be. But I had to look up a little bit on Rock'em Sock'em Robot, and those also go back to 1964. That was when they were first released by Mattel, and they were a huge hit. They were, back in the olden days when there were only 3 television networks. The at least not just on Saturday morning, but they were constantly being advertised. Just an absolute huge hit. And I'll put you on the spot. Did you own one of these, John?
Did not.
I didn't either.
No, I didn't. But
Rich did.
Rich, it's too bad. He might know the names of the 2 robots. The 2 robots actually had names. They were, and you can tell which is which when I give you their names, the Red Rocker and the Blue Bomber.
Okay.
So you can tell which is which. But the best part, they were so successful in the United States that they brought them out in England. They brought a special version out for the British in the 1970s. It was, instead of being called Rock'em Sock'em Robot, it was sold under the name Raving Bonkers.
Oh, geez.
Raving Bonkers. And the robots were renamed. The Blue Bomber became Basher Bonker, and the Red Rocker became Biffer Bonker, which are much harder to say. So anyway, so if you saved your old Rock'em Sock'em Robots, they're going to be worth something now once this movie comes out. If it comes out, that remains to be seen. Probably better than anything that was that we saw at the Oscars over the weekend.
Did you bother to watch it?
I watched a little bit of it, yes. Just enough so that the Nielsen registered me as a viewer, because I felt bad. I think it had the worst worst numbers in history. No host, just don't get me started.
Okay.
Not on that, on something else. I'm going to take that picture down. So I want to talk a little bit about the late great Prince Philip, and my favorite. But turns out that Prince Philip and I have something in common. Both of us list the Loch Ness Monster as our favorite monsters. Wow. How about that?
Hey,
I should have been invited to the funeral. So it turns out that there's been a number of stories when after the funeral. We may have talked about that. I know we talked about this on the show before. He had a very big interest in UFOs. He also was worshipped by the villagers on a Pacific island as a god who was going to go off and marry. He came down the mountain, then he left the island to marry a rich woman with power, and then he was going to bring her back, and they were going to save everybody from poverty or the volcano or whatever is going on over there. So, but I didn't know about this. It turns out that he had a lot of connections with the Loch Ness Monster, which how did he find time to do all this with that busy job that he had? With whatever he did.
Yeah, what was his job? Oh, never mind.
So, I know, yeah. So the story starts after World War II. Nobody cared about monsters other than Hitler during World War II. After World War II ended, Philip came back, and Philip and Elizabeth got married. So he's living in Buckingham Palace, and there's some rumblings going on in Scotland about the Loch Ness Monster. The Scots are upset because they heard a rumor that someone from England, from the museum in England, is going to go and capture or kill or do something to the Loch Ness Monster and take them back to London with them, so that there won't be a Loch Ness Monster anymore. So Philip is going to take care of this, but he had a secret mission, and that is he was afraid that the Loch Ness Monster might be some kind of weapon, and he was a big military guy, so he was going to, under the guise of protecting the Scots monster, he wants to go to Loch Ness and see if he can fix the issue. So he told Elizabeth about it, and it turns out that the Loch Ness Monster is also Elizabeth's favorite monster. So they didn't do much, they just reassured the Scots that no one is going there to steal their monster. And then in the 1960s, this guy, Sir Peter Scott, obviously a knight, he was a World War II war hero, which is how he became a knight. He decided that he was going to set up a mission to capture the Loch Ness Monster, but he had a special plan. He knew Queen Elizabeth's secretary, her personal secretary. So he contacted this personal secretary and said, "I need you to get a message to the Queen. I need some money. I'm going to go catch the Loch Ness Monster. And when I catch it, I'm going to name it after the Queen. I'm going to call it Elizabethia Nessia. Get that message to the Queen. Let me know what she says."
Okay.
So the secretary, being a good, member of the royal staff, said, no. he says, if word gets out that you're going to name the Loch Ness Monster after the Queen, and then it turned out to be a hoax, that wouldn't be a good thing. He said, and even if you caught it, naming any kind of monster after the Queen is not a good thing. So he said, just forget about it. So Scott, the knight, he gets another guy who he works with to contact Prince Philip. Well, Prince Philip gets interested because I think he must think that it'd be funny for the monster to be named after the Queen, because he had a good sense of humor. But he couldn't convince anybody else. So Scott never got any money. Philip even tried to get him some sonar and some old used military equipment, and they wouldn't even give him that. So that's where it ended. But he had a lifelong interest. He maintained a lifelong interest in the Loch Ness Monster. My question is, why didn't Oprah ask Harry and Meghan about this? Because I would have cared much more about that than some of the other stuff she talked to those two yokels about. The
subject would have been a good subject anyway.
I think so. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Harry. I'm going to get in contact with Harry and Meghan. I'm going to promise I'm going to go look for the Loch Ness Monster. I'm going to call it Loch Ness Meghan if I find it, and see if she buys it. Or if not, maybe Charles and Camilla might be interested. I could call it Camilla Nessier. What do you think? Would that work?
I don't think so. Be married,
I know. I don't know. It's just I told you those weird stories this week. So let's go to food. All right, we were talking about food before. Let's go back to food for a minute. Have you ever heard of the Brazil nut effect? Okay, let me ask it a different way. Have you ever opened up a can of mixed nuts and wondered why all the Brazil nuts were on the top?
No.
Okay, we'll move on. There's this. I have, and it's believe it or not, I didn't come up with that name. It's a well-known phenomenon that if you pour a bowl of mixed nuts and you shake it, the Brazil nuts rise to the top, and they're
the heaviest ones. They should go to the bottom.
I know they should go to the bottom. They're the biggest ones. They're the heaviest ones, but instead they rise to the top. So this bothered so many people that they did a study about it, which, as always, I said, how do they convince people to spend money on this? So they use 3D imaging and of bowls of Brazil nuts. In fact, I think I have a bowl of Brazil nuts here that I can put up here. Oh, there's the Rock'em Sock'em robots. Let's see. Oh, there we go. There's a bowl of Brazil nuts. See, the Brazil nuts are on the top. So they shook the bowls and they watched the Brazil nuts rise to the top. And in their movement to the top of the bowl, the Brazil nuts first somehow work themselves into a vertical position. So with the pointy end up, and then that bullet shape that they have allowed them to penetrate through the rest of the nuts until they got to the top. And then they tipped over and returned back to the horizontal position. Now, I was explaining this to a friend of mine, and he wondered if that happened at orgies too. John wasn't here. I would have asked John. So that explains it. They did an actual study to look at the Brazil nut effect. But believe it or not, do either of you like Brazil nuts?
Yeah, I can take them or leave them.
Take them or leave them. John, how about you?
Oh, they're okay. I think
They're
they're
okay.
better when you have a variety of nuts. To eat them by themselves,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done that.
Good, don't. Because but they are good. They're good for the immune system, and they're also good for your thyroid and for your brain. But in small quantities, it turns out you can actually overdose on Brazil nuts, and it causes if you eat 50 Brazil nuts at a time, you can have a condition known as selenosis because they contain selenium, and you overdose on selenium, which causes breathing problems, heart attack, and kidney failure. So now I don't want to eat any of them now because I might lose count.
Yeah.
And then what? Of course, a can of mixed nuts, most cans of mixed nuts are what? 90% peanuts, 2 cashews, and a couple of Brazil nuts, and you're done. I hope Planters isn't thinking about sponsoring us because I think we just lost them.
Oh, well.
I know. Well, thanks a lot. Let's see. I've got another. Here's one for you, John. Here's another one of those studies I can't believe somebody funded. The American Chemical Society funded this study where researchers measured the amount of carbon dioxide dissolved in a commercial glass of beer after it was poured, immediately after it was poured. And they wanted to know how many bubbles were in a glass of beer.
Oh, my God.
What do you think? How many bubbles are there in a glass of beer, Karen?
Too many to count.
Too many to count. That's what I thought too. John, you want to take a guess?
Thousands.
Somewhere between you're low. Somewhere between 200,000 and nearly 2 million bubbles in a glass of beer. Yeah. This is, and of course, this study took forever because they were constantly, they had to keep counting and drinking and counting and drinking and counting. Which beer has the most bubbles, you may ask? Miller High Life, the champagne of bottled beer, because it's got all the bubbles in it. I don't know if it does here, but okay, let's talk a little bit about music here. I'm going to take that down for a second here. We don't have to look at mixed nuts because they might poison us if we look at them too long. Entomologists, those are the people who study insects. They did a study, okay? They've been challenged by bug brains. They, like fruit flies. Fruit flies have really tiny brains, but they need to measure them. And they had to come up with a way to measure them. And they can't just, go in with tweezers and pull one out. So what they do is they put a bunch of brains, bug brains, in a blender, and they mix soup out of them.
Oh.
And then they divide it. If there's like 100 bugs in there, they divide it by 100, and they count it there, and that's how they tell how many neurons in there, and that tells them how smart the bugs are. How about that? That's science at work here.
That's
Science.
bizarre, Paul. That is just bizarre.
Somebody would pay us for a stupid study.
Well, here's what I wish they'd pay us for giving them a really great band name. Bug Brain Soup. Great name for a band, don't you think? I'd go see them. I think they opened for Mata Hoople, if I'm not mistaken. Speaking of music, all right, I want to put one more music picture up here. Not this. This is that's the nuts. Okay, this is I know we talk about stories coming from outer space. This is from the International Space Station. That's a Japanese astronaut, Soichi Noguchi, who is also a renowned pianist. And he actually took a keyboard with him to the space station. And he sits up there in the observation tower at the top with the windows all around him. And he plays music for the rest of the astronauts, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's why I called him the Piano Man. So there he is. He's going to be leaving shortly, and I guess he takes his piano with him. But he put on a concert because he knows he's leaving. So he put on a nice concert for the rest of the astronauts. And NASA, unfortunately, had to shut it down because they started playing some rock songs, and the astronauts were pulling out lighters and starting to light them. And that's not a good thing to do in the space station. But what would he play? Rocket Man, I was thinking, would be an appropriate song. And then he's up there with all the Russians, so he'd have to play like maybe back in the USSR or something,
Fly Me to the Moon.
Fly Me to the Moon. Oh boy, a great romantic song. I don't know if you want to get romantic up in the space station because you're weightless. I mean, it's hard enough to dance, but you start playing Fly Me to the Moon, and the next thing you know, everybody's pairing off in a capsule.
Hey, what about Space Oddity by David Bowie?
Space Oddity. Now, there's a good choice, John. Thank you. I was trying to come up with that one. That's another good one. I think, but you can't, that's not really a danceable tune. You can't really dance up there. But, okay. So after Bug Brain Soup, I have one more weird animal for us. And this is back to you, John, in Florida. So here's something for you to look out for.
I will.
A new invasive animal has invaded Florida. It is called the African tropical clawed frog. Clawed frog, also known as the Western clawed frog, which eat a lot of insects, but they also like to claw tadpoles and other animals and humans. I'm going to show you a picture of one of these here. This is not something you want to mess with. The picture that I'm showing is a giant frog whose hands and feet are much bigger than a normal frog. And at the end of all those little appendages is a great big claw, which hence the name, the clawed frog. And this is, they're worried about them because they're dangerous to other animals. They're also dangerous to other clawed frogs because I have a picture of some clawed frogs here. And I'm not going to say what they're doing, but I think those claws were definitely digging in pretty deep while he was trying to get his grip on two different frogs underneath them. So they're also kinky frogs, which I thought that was a singer in Texas. No, that was Kiki Friedman.
So I'm wondering, because of the difference in coloration and stuff, is that the guy frog on the top? And
yeah, right. The guy's on the top, and he's doing a leapfrog.
Yeah, whatever you call it.
What appears to be a female of a different color, who is doing a leapfrog on another female of a. So, you know what? Somebody must have brought them to entertain themselves as pets.
I think so.
That's what they ended up with. And to me, that's another band name. The Clawed Frogs, I think, would be a great band name. And if I were
keep an eye open.
Keep an eye open for those, John. And I'll tell you what, if they go to attack you, tell them that you're a herpetologist and your name is Clawed Frogs. There you go. They'll leave you alone. Okay, let's. So we missed last week. We missed doing weird sports with John DiNallo. I actually have a couple of sports stories this week that I want to read to you before we get. I'll take that frog down.
Yeah, please.
Thanks.
So this one comes from Cleveland, Ohio, where on Thursday of this week, we will be hosting the NFL draft. Big, great, big. You're going to miss this, John. I can't believe you scheduled to be out of town.
On TV. I'll be watching it on TV down here.
Yeah.
But
counting down the numbers until the Browns draft somebody. So I figured out who they're going to draft. And it comes courtesy of Baker Mayfield, the Cleveland Browns quarterback. We did a story about him recently. If you remember, Karen, Baker Mayfield told us about witnessing with his wife a UFO in Texas. So he's doing an interview about the draft. And of course, they asked him about the UFO. And he had this to say. He said, "I'm a firm believer in UFOs and Sasquatch." So not only does he believe in UFOs, Baker Mayfield, quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, believes in Bigfoot, which I believe was a secret message to Cleveland fans that the first pick in the NFL draft by the Cleveland Browns will be Bigfoot. Tight end, maybe, right? What do you think, John? Bigfoot, 9 foot.
I don't know if he's fast enough to play the position, to be honest with you.
He's not too fast.
We know he's not fast.
And I don't know if he'd want to wear a uniform. You never see Bigfoot in any clothes.
No,
I was wondering if they were scouting him, if they first of all were able to get an actual view of him, as well as some actual pictures.
Oh yeah, running the 40-yard dash. Yeah.
It's on
going through the tires.
It's right. It's on 2 accounts. Oh my gosh.
Baker's only a quarterback. He's not allowed to see all the secret scouting stuff, I guess.
Right.
But he's got a big foot. Maybe he'd be the kicker. I mean, he might be a good kicker. That might be a great, or center. Can you imagine being a defensive player lined up against the Browns, and in front of you is this big, ugly, hairy thing looking up at you with drool coming out of his mouth, and
probably would run the other way.
Where would you find a helmet for Bigfoot? So anyways, Baker Mayfield believes in Bigfoot. I'm sure this is going to come up again. And then one more sports story here. Kind of fits into the sport that John's going to talk about. This comes from California. Caltech scientists studying fruit flies. They're always studying fruit flies. They've determined that fruit flies can fly up to 15 kilometers or 9 miles in a single day. 9 miles in a single day, one little fruit fly, which is 6 million times their body length. If a human could run, if you measured how far a human could run in 24 hours by their body length, we would have to do over 10,000 kilometers to match 9 miles of a fruit fly.
Wow.
And only a few of them can do it because they fly in swarms. And if they're flying with their kids are constantly asking, "Do we get there? Are we there yet? Did we get there?" And shut up, we're late. Yeah. Kids are the same everywhere in the evolutionary chain.
Right.
So anyway, normally if you watch a show, listening to the show, I normally ask John DiNallo to find some sports that we can participate in. This week, I already know I don't think we're going to be participating in this particular sport.
Well, I would hope we wouldn't be in this.
On that note, I'm going to turn everything over to John DiNallo in sports.
Thanks, Paul. So, camel jumping is the sport this week. Yes, you heard it right.
Did you get that, Karen?
Camel jumping.
What is your problem?
We're trying to find the most strangest sports on the planet, and I think this is one of them for sure. So camel jumping, okay, it's a sport that's practiced in the Middle East and particularly in the country of Yemen.
Yemen, okay.
Now, it must be clarified that camel jumping is not similar to an equestrian event in which the camel is doing the jumping. Here, the camel is the hurdle.
Okay, so that's what John this is what I thought of when he said we were going to talk about camel jumping.
But
I
that's
have a
not the
picture of a
sport, though.
camel,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
jumping over like a fence or a bale of
Correct.
hay. In fact, this is pretty dangerous, by the way. I have a picture of a camel that tripped over the bar. This looks like an Olympic event. What do you call that when the runner runs and jumps over hurdles?
Hurdles.
Right.
The just to show you how high these camels can jump. If we were talking about, yeah, I have a picture here of a camel who's jumped so far in the sky that he I think it's a he. If I look at the picture closely, far above the heads of the people that he's jumping with. So these are phenomenal animals. So John's right. This is probably not a sport we want to participate in.
Yeah.
But as he said, we're not talking about jumping camels. We're talking about camel jumping, and not to be confused with camel bungee jumping, which I also have a picture of.
Oh.
It's actually it's a camel being hauled and being moved around, but looks like it could be a bungee jumper. Anyways, John, so we're not talking about any one of those. What are we talking about?
No, we're not. So anyway, so this sport, so the camel is the hurdle over which the participants must jump, and those are people. And the camels are dromedaries. They're also known as Arabian camels, and distinguished by their single hump and long curved neck. They are the tallest of their species. And adult males can easily reach 6 to 7 feet tall at the shoulders, making them formidable obstacles to jump.
Yeah. So I have a picture. There must be a Bigfoot in this picture somewhere because it's really blurry.
I don't know, Paul. I think you'd be hard pressed to find.
This is the beginning. Yeah, this is some camels lined up waiting for some foolish Yemeni to jump over them.
Right. So anyway, so the rules. Let's talk of the rules for a moment.
There's rules.
The rules are fairly straightforward. Jumpers compete barefoot, and they wear traditional clothing tucked in at the waist.
Oh, I think I have a picture of. There's some competitors right
there. You go.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now
they're all barefoot. Yeah.
Right.
Look pretty healthy.
So these gents, they sprint full speed at a camel that is being held in place by its reins and tail, and then they launch off of a raised mound of packed mud and dried weeds that stands about a foot high. A successful attempt is when the jumper clears the camel without touching any part of the animal.
And
each successful,
do they have to land? Do they have to land on their feet? Like the gymnasts do? Did they get? I don't know.
No, they just need to clear the camel.
They have to clear the camel.
Clear the camel. So a successful attempt is when the jumper clears the camel without touching any part of the animal. With each successful jump, another camel is then added to the dromedary lineup. The participant who jumps over the most number of camels is then declared the winner.
I've got a picture. See, the camels are moving around. So these guys, they have special spotters or something, I guess.
Yeah,
they're like the pommel horse in the gymnastics. Right. Yeah, they're holding the camels so they don't move.
Sure. So
push them by their butts.
Yes. Typically, the best camel jumpers, like the well-known Zayed Omer of Yemen, can clear 5 or 6 camels at a time.
The Michael Jordan of camel jumping.
Yes.
Six camels at a time.
There you are. So, however, the sport is not without its dangers. Both the contestant and the obstacle. A leap gone awry can have the athlete crash into the camel's flank, or even landing on its long neck.
Not a good idea.
Much to the detriment of both man and beast.
Wow.
An ill-timed launch or awkward landing can easily result in a leg injury or even a broken leg.
Yeah, they're playing in dirt.
Correct.
From the pictures that we've been looking at, maybe sand. I guess it would be sand. They're probably in the desert if they're there with camels. But yeah, they're running barefoot and they're landing barefoot. I think it'd be a good TV sport. I think it'd be a good extreme
Well,
sport.
so anyways, the victorious dromedary leader receives a modest cash prize, but the real bounty is the prestige being considered the best camel jumper among the Zeranig, and it's a tribe on the west coast of Yemen. And the Zeranig, over history, have always prided themselves on their physical prowess. They
What could
are
they endorse?
well, I don't know, but they're even famed for not using weapons in battle. So they would be battling their opponents or their adversaries. They wouldn't even have a weapon. They would rely on their natural strength and stamina to overcome them.
Or jump over them.
Yeah.
Jump
Yeah.
over the tanks. Yeah.
Now, this odd sport has been rumored to have originated in a dispute between two Zarang tribesmen over the price of a camel. Now, go figure that.
Yeah. So I've got a little action sequence here for those of you who
yeah,
want to tune in on YouTube,
Yeah.
of a couple of guys jumping over. I was counting the butts. I believe one is jumping over 5, another one's jumping over 6 camels. So that could be Zion, whatever his name is, the Michael Jordan camel jump.
Right. Okay, now the competitors are usually competitions, are usually held during special occasions such as weddings, the celebration of the Prophet Muhammad's birth, or the annual Palm Festival celebrating the harvesting of dates.
Now, that's a fun wedding. All right, have the bridal dance. Let's go camel jumping.
Now, okay, the sport of camel jumping has a dedicated following and is consistently practiced in war-torn Yemen. It is slowly gaining popularity outside the country, but chances are it will not be declared an Olympic event anytime soon.
Thank God.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
Now, there are records. There are records I'd like to speak to, okay?
Oh, yeah, okay.
The world record for the long jump at 29 feet, 4 1/4 inches belongs to Mike Powell of the United States.
29 feet, okay.
And the record for the high jump at 8 feet and 1/2 inch belongs to Javier Sotomayor of Cuba.
So this is almost like a combination because they're jumping over these camels. They're going at 6 feet in the air easily.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if I don't know how wide a camel is, but I'm going to say like maybe 3 feet. So you got 6 camel butts. That's 6 times 3 is 18 feet.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They ought to be in the Olympics.
Now, the record for barefoot camel jumping at 6 camels belongs to Zayed Omar of Yemen. So the 6 is really considered to be a record. No one has done more than 6 at one time, at least in terms of it being recorded. And as an aside,
but isn't there a governing body, John, that would?
No, Paul, I'm glad you asked that question. I do wonder if eventually a recognized federation will take over the sport, but to this point, there has no formal federation or organization that, again, oversees it.
But how did this American and this Cuban gentleman?
Oh, those are Olympics.
Well, I don't care. Those are good questions. I mean, they're in Yemen, obviously, where this takes place. So they decided to get into the competition.
They have to get to Yemen first. I had a version that I wanted to come up with, Karen. I want to jump over camels on a motorcycle.
Oh,
they call me Camel Knievel.
Yep.
Las Vegas would love this. You know, Caesar's Palace, get up front, jumping over camels. We could make a fortune. We do the show from there. Kind of like a wedding. You know, after the show, we do camel jumping on a motorcycle.
Oh my
now, John, I do have a picture here of what would happen if the two of us tried camel jumping. And that's it right there. We'd end up on top of the camel.
Well, we'd be lucky to do that.
I know. Yeah, we'd be lucky to get that high up off the ground.
Really?
Onto one camel.
Love it.
So anyways, John DiNallo, as always, thanks so much coming to us live from Florida on his vacation with camel jumping.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Paul.
As John said off the air, it doesn't beat finger jousting, but it's pretty good.
Oh.
Oh gosh.
So, and it doesn't beat what's coming up next, which is Bluff the Co-host.
All right.
Everybody's
Can't
favorite weird news game. So we've been telling real stories, sometimes strange, always funny all afternoon. That changes with Bluff the Co-host. I have 3 stories that may be real, may be a bluff, and it's up to Karen and John. And if you're playing at home while you're listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube, you need to decide yourself. I'm going to take that camel down here. I don't want John to be distracted. He wants to focus. Yeah, he wants to focus on the story. So I think there's some themes running through the stories this week in Bluff the Co-host. Let's see if you can notice them. Okay, so hands on the buzzer. All bets are placed. Let's go with story number 1. The Hershey Company used to think that there was nobody who didn't like candy, but it turns out they were wrong, and it took the coronavirus to make them find out. The company is now looking for a new name for its payday candy bars, the chewy nougat rolled in salted peanuts, but not because of peanut allergies, but because its name makes too many unemployed people depressed while they're waiting in line at the grocery store. The stores have received so many complaints about paydays, they banded together to petition Hershey to change the name, something Hershey has agreed to and hopes to do by the end of the year. It also offered to change the name of the $100,000 bar, but stores say that one actually encourages people to buy more lottery tickets. So, a request by grocery stores to change the name of the payday candy bar because too many people were getting depressed by the name while they looked at it, waiting to check out. Real or bluff? Karen, we'll start with you.
First of all, hasn't been one cashier who has noticed if I'm depressed or not, and they wouldn't know what I was depressed over. So I'm going to say you are bluffing me today.
What if you were so depressed that you told the checkout person that you were
I
depressed?
think they would laugh at me.
Put your card in the machine, lady.
Yeah.
There's people waiting in line behind you at a safe 6-foot distance. Okay, so Karen says the payday name change is a bluff. John, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Karen on this. I'm going to pray that it's a bluff.
John prays that it's a bluff. You like paydays, John?
Yeah, they're good actually. They're good.
Yeah, I do too. If you get them fresh, you get the ones that are stale and it's like chewing on a log covered with peanuts. Anyways, so let's see. You both said that the bluff. Let me look here. You're both correct. Wow. Ooh,
Yeah.
off to a good start.
Okay, here you go, Karen. We're starting off well.
That vacation is treating you well, John. Okay, let's see if it continues here with our second story. Story number 2. One of the busiest airports in the world is with one of the most famous names, may soon have a new one that at least a few people may find easier to remember. Chicago's O'Hare Airport, named for the U.S. Navy's first Medal of Honor recipient in World War II, is considering a very lucrative sponsorship offer from the National Football League and Chicago's local team to change the name of the airport to the Go Bears Airport. The O'Hare family was initially upset, but gave its permission after also receiving a generous offer from the NFL. Chicagoans don't mind Old Bears Airport because the Bears could use the publicity. And airport officials think Go Bears is close enough to O'Hare that foreign travelers won't really notice the difference. The airport has until the end of the 2021 season to accept the offer from the NFL. All right, John, our sports commentator, the Bears and the NFL want Chicago to change the name of the airport to Go Bears Airport. Real or bluff?
Paul, I think it's a bluff. I just think it's I think it's a bluff.
There's a lot of money, John,
I know.
Money talks.
Money talks.
Look at how many I used to live in Houston. That stadium down there had like half a dozen names. And each time somebody paid even more for it. Okay, so John says it's a bluff.
It's a bluff.
Karen, how about you?
I have to agree because Go Bears, O'Hare. No. It's O'Hare Airport.
O'Hare, not go Bears.
No, not go Bears.
Never go Bears.
No, never.
You sure?
Positive.
Let's see. You're both right again. Oh,
All right.
this is a tough week here.
Yeah.
All right. So you both so that's 2-2. Points are doubled in round 3. So but that doesn't really matter because you're both tied. So let's see what happens in round number 3.
Hey.
If there's 2 things the Scots like, it's drinking scotch and throwing axes. If you don't believe it, you should pay a visit to a new 4-story bar in Aberdeen, where the first floor serves scotch and the other 3 have lane after lane of axe throwing lanes with a plywood target at one end, a tow line at the other, and a table to put down your scotch while throwing your axe. The building couldn't make it as a market, but locals say they can't wait for the axe throwing venue to open. The city council was concerned about noise and potential crime, but the owners assured them that the walls are getting extra insulation and no axes will be allowed to leave the building. The final approval came when the owners turned the lanes around so that none of them were facing open windows. Aberdeen's 4-story Scotch and Axe bar is expected to be open soon and will employ 75 people. So, combination Scotch and Axe bar. We talked about Axe bars before, Karen. I think you have a relative involved in that business.
Yeah. Who has one in Michigan? Yep.
Would he open a Scotch and Axe bar in Michigan as they are, or maybe not in Aberdeen?
Who knows? But it sounds realistic to me.
Sounds like you would. Okay, so you think it's real?
Yeah.
Would you go to one?
No, because I don't drink scotch and I don't care to throw an axe.
And don't care to throw an axe. Okay, well, that's 2 strikes right there. Okay, so Karen says that's a real story, the Scotch and Axe bar in Aberdeen. John, how about you?
I think it's true also. I can see an entrepreneur in Scotland trying to come up with something different. And as you said, again, we've had axe throwing before, and there is axe throwing, obviously, locations. So this one just has a little bit more of an addition.
4 stories of axe throwing.
I'm going to say it's true, yeah.
4 stories, lane after lane, 4 stories of axe throwing. That's how popular you're saying it is in Scotland.
Could be, yeah.
Maybe it's the Scotch, right? Could be.
Too.
I don't know. Well, let's see. What do I have down here? That's a real story. You guys got me this week. Perfect scores. Right. Holy smoke. Wow. Karen, you're always good. John, the sun is doing wonders for you there. You must be walking around without a hat on and getting some good sun.
I'm gonna have to stay down here so I can keep, so I can keep pace. I won't come back.
I'm sure the lovely Annette will buy that. Yeah.
She probably doesn't want to come back and go to work, so she'll stay.
Yeah, since she left snow up here, you're probably right about that.
Right.
All right, so that we've come to the end of What in the World and Bluff the Co-host and all that other stuff. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you tuned in live, if you're listening to us in the future, thank you so much. On your pod platforms, you can find out about them at newclevelandradio.net, which Karen is the media mogul in charge of. Many great podcasts on there. So once you're done with What in the World, please tune into one of the other podcasts. John, we miss you, but I can tell by the background you don't miss us that much. We are looking forward to you coming back soon. Yeah, there you go.
Sounds good. Thanks, Karen.
Aaron, as always, thank you for everything that you do for What in the World and what you do for newclevelandradio.net. Thank you.
And we'll be back next month.
Next week. That's right. Next Tuesday.
Next month. It's a
Next
whole
week,
new
next month. That's right.